here on this Thursday. It is October 17th, 2024. Rob
It's
Brown,
all
executive producer.
pumpkin season here all over.
Yeah,
Get your pumpkin spice on.
Man, that stuff starts up here in like July. Pumpkin spice. But look, we ain't
In
talking
Cherryville?
pumpkin spice. We're going to be talking Cherry Farm. We're talking, hey, live.
We're going to be talking.
Memphis.
Hey, Rob, I got to do the order at Starbucks. Will you do the talking, okay?
I got it.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
All right, here we go. We got a great
Hey,
show
can I have a venti
John
strawberry
Hartwell in line with us today.
venti strawberry acai with no
Director from
inclusion?
And Matt Dean, Associate AD, Rhodes College. Johnny Ballpark Franks checks in with us as
lemonade,
well.
and
Going to be covering a lot
venti,
today. I think we want to find out
ice brown
where
sugar
does the
oatmeal
SEC
cinnamon
stack up
espresso,
nationally
and that's
compared
it.
to all other football conferences in America.
Okay, thank you
right
very
now.
much.
And
What did you want, Rob?
question
Did you
is-
need anything? You good?
I'm good.
Okay,
But
thank you.
we want to know why these certain schools in the SEC are doing well and why some teams are struggling. We talked about it yesterday. You got some, really good programs, but not great teams. So smash that subscribe button in the bottom right-hand corner. Make sure you do that and allow notifications on your Android and iPhone. Folks, it's about delivering on content, putting out great information. You cannot
Raising
do it
kids.
without a great team. And I'm going to tell you right now, Matt Dean's here with Brendan and me. Matt, this is one I want to get into. What you're seeing in the SEC this year, this league, I mean, we talked about it yesterday, and Brendan and I both heard it. Are we cannibalizing each other? What are we doing? And how does the SEC compare to the rest of the country? Your son Tyler's team, Oregon, had a nice victory, 33-32 at home against Ryan Day and the $20 million roster. That's what we think it's worth.
Hey,
How
guys,
you doing?
good to be back. Can you hear me? I'm in a hotel in Washington, Indiana.
There you go.
I got hotel Wi-Fi, so bear with me.
It looks better than your other Wi-Fi.
It looks really good.
You're probably right. But I'm on my way to Purdue, Oregon tomorrow night, picking up my wife in the airport in Indy tonight because she was at the Oregon-Ohio State game. Rob, it was 32-31. Get the score right. But going back to your initial point, we knew we were going to cannibalize each other in the SEC because, I mean, how can you not? You got great teams up and down the league. It's tough to win on the road anywhere in America. And quite frankly, one of the better stories in college football is Vanderbilt University right now.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing to beat Alabama for the first time in 40 years and then go on the road to beat a Kentucky team who had just won at Ole Miss. So kudos to Charlie Lee. I was not able to watch the whole Florida game, guys, but it looks like Florida, for the most part, should have won that football game. I could be wrong. And then honestly,
I don't know why. I mean, it just feels like that. Did you guys? That game just felt like the same game 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Back in Knoxville when they almost won it before. It was Groundhog's Day. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah.
That's what what every day feels like at University of Florida.
Yeah. Matt, I got to ask you, and Florida had won 6 of the previous 8 games up in Gainesville. Buddy Martin pointed all this out to me last week, that since Steve Spurrier became the head coach at Florida in 1990, Florida 26-8, now 26-9 in that rivalry with Tennessee. But I tell you, talking about Florida, and then you flip over to Tennessee, Nico Iamaleava, since SEC play started, hadn't gone over 200 yards passing.
Right.
Let's get inside his head. Super talented athlete out of California, 5-star, allegedly has an $8 million NIL deal. I'm sure there's a lot of small print how that's paid out. What do you think's going on with him? Because you got to grow up fast in the SEC. It doesn't matter who you are.
When you face on a weekly basis, Rob, not only defenses, but $2 million coordinators on the defensive side of the ball, right? I just think the bottom line is going through the league the very first time completely is a difficult challenge. And you would think at home it would be easier than on the road. Had a tough loss to Arkansas. The biggest thing for Vol fans is you won the game, okay? So I'll give you style points. I'll go to Tuscaloosa. After the loss to Vandy, I thought they were going to go out, and they got off to a great start. I think they were up 14-0. I think South Carolina put up 12 late points in the second quarter. And when they recovered that onside kick, Rob, I was going, oh, my. Are you kidding me? Because if you would have went back-to-back losses, Caleb DeMore, man, that would have been tough. You get the win, but it sets up a really intriguing matchup. You know, the third week in October has always been the big thing. Don't have your weddings that weekend if you're a true Alabama-Tennessee fan. And it's going to be I don't know what to say because both teams have kind of really intrigued me from a mystifying standpoint the last 2 weeks. I don't know what to think right now because, Rob, you raise a good point. Quarterback play matters, and how is he progressing? Is it a combination of being young and seeing some different combinations in, against really good defensive coordinators? And let's be honest, Florida has a lot of great athletes on the field. We've talked about this. They may not have the record, but they got a lot of 4 and 5 stars, so they're getting better. If you had to hold me down, I'll take Milroe in that matchup. I think Alabama wins a close game, but it would not shock me if the Vols found a way this weekend because I still believe in Josh Heupel's offense, and at some point you think they're going to break through.
They better soon. Hey, DJ and KJ Drive Time watching down in Bruton, Alabama. A little bit of trivia here. Home of Philip Jennings, Steve Jennings, David Jennings, Molly Jennings, the great Jennings family. When T.R. Miller High School, the private school, plays Bruton High School, that's called the Battle of Murder River. Pretty cool. They're right above, not too far from Destin, Pensacola, and all like that. But appreciate y'all watching. I think when I look at Alabama, it's exactly what the problem is. They are not as dialed in, it seems, and focused like snipers as they were when Nick Saban was there. But there's always change and transition. Kalen DeBoer, who wants to be the guy that replaces the GOAT? You want to be the guy that replaces the guy that replaced the GOAT.
Sure.
I mean, that's typically how it works.
But hold on, Matt, but let me ask you from coach's perspective, or even anyone's perspective, and Rob, don't you listen a little bit more when you have that clout? There's one thing to listen, and then you listen, and then you're like, when you listen, when you really don't want to effing listen, when you really want to listen like this, and listening, that's when it's Nick Saban going, shit, I gotta listen because it's Nick Saban. That's that kind of different listen, is it? Than it is with Caleb DeBoer, and you only get that with winning a bunch of natties.
Yeah. Rob, Brendan, you said exactly what I was thinking because we all talk about in the coaching world about having focus, but it's a lot easier to focus when Nick Saban's telling you to focus. I'll just be honest with you because that's the beauty of being a GOAT. He has the rings to back it up. He's got that intensity even in his just glare before he speaks. Watch it on game day. Every word that comes out of there, everyone's looking ready to absorb. And I think that's what's kind of missing right now is, they got off to a good start. They beat Georgia, but even in the second half, man, Kirby had the troops ready to go, took the lead. It was an incredible play by freshman Ryan Williams that won him that football game.
Yeah.
And also, I look now and I think how you handle adversity in coaching, we talk about that all the time. How do you handle adversity? And after the loss to Vanderbilt, I thought they would have I would have said, okay, lay the points. They are going to put the smackdown on South Carolina. It did not happen. And one of the things that's striking to me in that game is they got out to a 14-0 lead. And it's almost like, okay, this is us again. And they let South Carolina back in the football game, and it almost cost them a home loss in the SEC.
Well, here's a question from Camp 31 Barbecue in Bruton, Alabama, down on Highway 31. It's Battle of Murder Creek. I always get that wrong. But all those guys I mentioned were Sigma News with me at Auburn. Appreciate them watching. I love Escambia County, South Alabama, the panhandle of Florida. We got a lot of viewers down there, and that is the kind of the United Nations of SEC fans. So many people retire down there to the Gulf Coast. So thank y'all for watching. Guys, I think that with Alabama, I took South Carolina to cover last week because I said just because Alabama's pissed off that they lost to Vanderbilt doesn't mean necessarily they're going to stomp South Carolina because South Carolina's got a pretty damn good line of scrimmage on defense. That's a key. Tennessee, what I think gives them a good chance against Alabama is their defense is really good. Rodney Garner, the depth on the front seven, that will take you a lot of places in the SEC. But you look at the amount of time Nico Iamaleava holds the damn ball, that's got to change. Again,
It'll
it's
get you hurt. It'll get you. It will get
it
you
will.
hurt in the SEC. That stuff will get you hurt. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
And the Graham Mertz is a perfect example of that. I just think that like you can't take shots in college like that because you're not going to have the interior and until NIL and all the money catches up, or maybe it doesn't because we're seeing parity in the league. But you can't take hits like that.
No, your body, you can't. Mentally, you can't. Dylan Sampson, Tennessee running back, has 15 touchdowns on the year. That guy out at Boise State, oh my God. Is he going to pass what Barry Sanders did in 1988, like 2,700 yards? How good is he, Matt? I mean, it's a great story there.
Well, first of all, if you look statistically, I think he is on pace to – I think Barry's number was 25 and change. I could be wrong. Maybe it's 26. Halfway through the season, he statistically is right there with Barry. I had a chance. Oregon played Boise State week 2. I wasn't at the game, but, I watch every play that Oregon plays.
Yeah.
They had it was an unbelievable stat. Like of his runs that night, there was like double figures of 0, 1, 2, 2, 2, 4. Then all of a sudden 70. He reminds you of Barry because Barry used to get bottled up. Then all of a sudden he would go for 80 yards. And he's not as tall, so he can get in there and kind of go side to side from his cutting standpoint. He gets an open space, man. He can fly. I heard the kid's a real humble kid, and I don't know NIL numbers, Rob. You were talking about Nico, $8 million. My God, I hope not. But anyway, I heard that Boise knew that they could possibly lose this kid, and they put all their NIL eggs in one basket, to speak. And I'm just really glad a kid like that stayed at Boise. They have a legitimate chance to be the 12 seed in the playoff. They're a really good.
Of course, I think they will be the 12th seed. I think they'll make it. I just do because they're just always that. I'm sorry to interrupt you because I've seen a lot of Boise State football from Colorado.
Yeah.
I've gone and done a lot of Boise State games for God knows whatever network I was working for that week. I was didn't matter. I mean. Rewind, hit play. But I have. There's something about the atmosphere. Idaho. I don't know. Like the girls are awesome there. Everything's just kind of awesome there, except for the tornadoes. I don't know what it is. It's just an awesome place.
Yeah.
Let me throw something that Houston Nutt said on here when he was there that one season at Boise before he came to Arkansas, and he said the blue turf. They got that blue turf at Boise.
I know.
It was like a mistake. Someone was going to chunk it. Said, "Do y'all want it?" They gave it to him, and he said, "But I think Coach Nutt told us that a lot of ducks were landing on the field. It looks like water." Yeah. So I mean, I'd love to hang out in that stadium because duck season starts November 16th.
It's nothing great.
Hey, let me tell you something about crazy. November 16th is going to be a big day in the state of Arkansas because it's opening day of duck season. And also, Texas plays Arkansas up in Fayetteville. What a day. I'm sure
two things I've never done. I've been to a game at Fayetteville, but I've never been duck hunting. See, these are things I want to go, and I've never seen a game in Oregon. So these are two things I want to do in life, bucket list.
I can help you in Oregon, Brendan.
I can help you in the duck hunting.
All right, so Rob and I want to get on the road. Instead of being storm chasers, we just want to be like SEC or just NCAA football story chasers. Not storm chasers, but story chasers.
I love that.
Get it?
Yes.
And then we wrap it around. And Rob and I are like, Rob, wake up, get in. Where are we going? We're going to go see Matt Dean. He's up there in Oregon. Let's go. And we get in like our area, but we stop like 45 times because it's like ADHD sports. to get there. I just feel like it would be really great content to come see, like, pick up Matt Dean like 3 days later after you've been waiting for us. So we finally get there.
Here it is. Here it is. A road trip series called a 30 rack of hams, a bucket of chicken, and
No, Rob.
2 ADHD guys and OCD, Rob, and we're road tripping all over the country. We're going to Brewton,
that's the name of it, Rob. That's the name of it.
Yeah,
no,
I mean,
you know what? Matt Dean has to be Matt Dean finishes us off. He's the perfect person to our threesome. Like it's like you gotta cut. It's like he balances out all the insanity.
Well, he is from Davenport, Iowa. He's a mild-mannered,
Idaho, Iowa, any state that starts with an I, the people are awesome. I don't know why.
All right, Matt, let's get back now in the SEC. I want to ask you, I know Auburn's going up to Missouri this weekend. Preseason, Doug Dean be on here with us Friday, the AU dose he does, talking about preseason, where Brady Cook ranked as a quarterback from Missouri. Right now, their passing offense is like 51st or 57th in the country. You look at what is going on. Missouri's pretty good, but they went down, and I did not know that Connor Wigman would play for A&M against Missouri, but 44-10 or whatever. That was not on the availability chart that we're supposed to get during the week. No. But, man, Missouri –
the availability chart. That thing's useless.
Yeah, and Auburn's had a week off to look, but the turnovers, turnovers are part of the game. But if Auburn has half this many turnovers, they're probably 4-2 or 5-1. Instead, they're 2-4, trying to avoid the fourth straight losing season since the late 40s and 1950 after World War II. It's been 70-plus years since Auburn has struggled like this. But as I see it, they got a good chance to beat Missouri Saturday. Do you think it can happen in Columbia? It's the 11 a.m. timeout game.
Yes, and I'm going to go on a tangent here. Part of the reason I think it can happen, Rob, is because it's 11 a.m. slot. But I want to go back to Connor Wegman because my son was involved in his recruiting process at A&M, knows the family, great kid, great family.
Yeah.
And when I came on this air, the last time you guys saw me, I thought Missouri would win a close game. I thought it was going to not be Connor Wigman starting. And he makes a huge difference. And props to Coach Elko and his staff. A&M's playing some really good football, guys.
They are.
They also have kind of a favorable SEC schedule if you compare it, obviously, to teams like Florida and other teams. But getting back to your question, that 3-point win over Vandy at home looks better for Missouri after the Alabama game, right?
Yes. And
the Kentucky game, right? So to answer your question, Rob, I saw something today that's really encouraging for Auburn fans. I think the On3 rankings, they are 4 in the country right now by that service for your next class of football recruits.
Yeah.
You guys are coming. And, Rob, if you can put together 60 minutes of football turnover-free, you can play and beat almost anyone in the SEC. I believe that. Because you're right, Rob. You're 2 or 3 plays away from being 4-2 or 5-1. Florida's a play away from being 4-2 and beating Tennessee last year.
You make a really good point, and I'm all about, I don't know, maybe it's just like what happens when your first and only kid hits like teenage years or almost or preteen or whatever. But it's like this absolute honesty, and I've worked with kids before and stuff, so I have experience like coaching and working with troubled teens and whatever. But my thing is that like when you kind of like you get this this mindset with sort of where we are with all of it with I guess, Matt, with what you're saying within coaching and how is it that we're seemingly
holy cow, where is
we lost our guy? We lost our guy.
Well, Matt, I'm looking here. You mentioned about Vanderbilt.
Yeah,
they're a pretty damn good team. Look at Diego Pavia's stats. I think he only has 10 touchdown passes on the year, maybe 1 pick. Yeah. But he's a classic. What is the quarterback supposed to do? Have huge passing numbers to look good, or is he supposed to line everybody up, read the defense, and put you in positions to win? I mean, I'll take Diego Pavia.
Well, and Rob, I think the quarterback is kind of like a robotic position. I equate it to a little bit how we recruit point guards in basketball, right?
Yeah.
We want that 6'2", 6'3", even bet longer kid that can put the ball on the floor, can shoot, can distribute, can rebound. But you know what? Sometimes those 5'8", 5'7" kids that are built like a tank and they're tough as nails. I remember Jameer Nelson when he played for St. John's. I know I'm going all off the charts here.
Hey, look, we love this stuff.
But the reality of the situation is, go back and quote Herm Edwards, I want winners. Okay? Yeah. I want winners. And I think Nick Saban said this a few weeks ago. And you know what's great? We got our tidbits of Coach Saban when he's coaching, but now on game day, we kind of get him unhinged sometimes.
Yes.
The amount that this Terry will let him get unhinged, or he does himself. But he was talking about, people were talking about these $20 and $25 million football NIL budgets, right? Well, Saban's like, you better spend your money on the right guy. You better get the right quarterback. And the evaluation process, Rob, still matters. Your offensive coordinator and your head football coach need to be aligned about that decision. And no disrespect, Rob, it's not worked out for Auburn yet, but it's going to through the recruiting process. It's just sometimes guys are available for a reason. Now, the one guy that was available, I didn't understand. If you watched Oregon last week, Dylan Gabriel, that's the reason why he's a Duck. Man, he went deep. He beat the Ohio State University.
Yeah.
He beat them.
I think what happened with Dylan Gabriel at Oklahoma was they had the highest rated offensive recruit in Oklahoma history, 5-star quarterback Jackson Arnold. And they were afraid, well, if Dylan Gabriel came back, that they would lose Jackson Arnold. That failed miserably. He goes to Oregon, Dylan Gabriel does. They're number 2 in the country. He's making a lot of NIL money. He may not get drafted. Who knows? But he's making a lot of money now. And the Oregon connection he's got is strong. UCF, Oklahoma, Oregon. But what I think's going on is Oklahoma then gets rid of their quarterback, Jackson Arnold, in the second quarter in their first SEC home game against Tennessee in favor of Matt Hawkins, whose father played for Bobby Stoops.
Yes.
I mean, that is just, you better be careful. You better take what you've got and not think, well, how many times have we heard the backup quarterback is better than the starter? Not this case.
Let me ask you a question.
Yes.
You knew Hawkins was coming in the program too, right? I'm just playing devil's advocate. Why don't you say, you know what, Dylan? We're going to, you're the guy for another year. We want you to tutor this guy, mentor this guy that's, played for former Coach Stoops. We want him to be your heir apparent. And when we have blowout situations, he's going to get reps. But you're our guy because you give us the best chance to win right now.
Yeah.
Let's go to Nico. He's another 5-star. I mean, look what's happened, Rob. I mean, you can't go in with a first-year guy or a second-year guy and win in these leagues at that position, Rob. You can't unless you have phenomenal everything else, and that's hard.
Yeah, and I think that everybody's looking at, say, this Deuce Knight kid out of George County, Lucedale, Mississippi, down on Highway 98. That's the old route to Destin from Memphis. Still going to take him some time to adjust.
Sure.
Guys have got to say, help me, help mentor me, and bring me along. You've got to. Hey, look, real quick on basketball. I know the last few days down at the Royal Bohemian Hotel in Mountain Brook, Alabama, SEC Media Days for men and women. Folks, you ever go down there to want a cool place to stay in Mountain Brook? Go to the Royal Bohemian and go eat at the, I think that bar is called the Char Bar. Man, Mountain Brook. Too bad Mountain Brook Village Brody's Deli isn't open anymore. Used to love to get sandwiches there. Kind of the Cat's Deli delicatessen of the South. John Hartwell joins us right now. John was an All-American bassoon player and trombone player in band. No, okay. John, ULM-AD, you're watching one of the coolest stories in college football this year. Your coach, Bryant Vincent from Glasgow, Kentucky. You know how to hire a coach. I got to. And Kevin Skarbinski wanted to come on this morning. He's got obligations. He's got things he's working. He could not join. We'll get him on. We'll shoot for next week. But there's a lot of great stories in college football. And I commented on X last night. God love what Elon Musk and those people are doing for free speech. And really, that's where the sports media hang out. But what's going on at ULM? You're 5-1. You told me the other night I was in the parking lot at the Walmart over in Wynn waiting for my wife to stop shopping. And as they say on SpongeBob SquarePants, 3 days later, she came out. But you said PTW LFG. I love it. Prove them wrong, and let's effing go. What's it like out there right now? Because college football needs stories like this with all the portal and NIL stuff that we hear so much about. There's a lot of great stories. Army and Navy, Diego Pavia, Ashton Gentry at Boise. And let's talk about your quarterback, some of your players, and what y'all's goals and aspirations are for the 2024 college football season, as only a regular at Winslow's Oyster House can say.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Good to see you and Matt. Missed being on with you guys last week. Hopefully, Brendan and all the crew down in Florida survived through the
they're
storm.
Back.
But that's great. Yeah, I mean we're in the midst of what's a great story, and as I told a couple of local reporters, a week or so ago, when we were 3-1 and had the opportunity to play James Madison. I said, hey, we can find a way to beat James Madison. We go from a regional feel-good story to a national story. And obviously we're fortunate enough to do that. Followed it up this past weekend with a pretty convincing win over Southern Miss to get to 5-1. So, you cannot say enough good things about the job that Bryant Vincent and his staff have done in getting this team to buy in and believe in each other and to believe in the system. And, when Coach Vincent was on with you guys here, 6 weeks ago, he talked about 73 newcomers and the ability to take 73 new pieces to the puzzle, bring them to Monroe, Louisiana, get them to buy in. And the great part of that is most of those guys, I mean, you've got social media and the ability to go search. Most of them didn't realize that, the last 40 years of Warhawk football, save, maybe 2012 and Colton Browning and that team who made some noise, beat Arkansas, about beat Baylor, about beat Auburn. There hadn't been a whole lot of pride to hang your hat on in our football program since then. And I knew that when I took the job. I knew it was going to be an uphill battle, but also knew there was opportunity here. And what he's done has been amazing. The really neat thing to see about it, the people inside the walls have believed about it, for several months now.
Yeah.
But to see that grow across campus, across our student body, throughout the community and all of Northeast Louisiana is really something special.
Well, it's great for morale when you got a team. People love to pull for something because they see a lot of themselves, and real life is reflected in sports. You got a plan, got to have a vision. Great locker room speech, I remember. Conceive it, believe it, achieve it. Not CBA. That doesn't stand for collective bargaining agreement. It stands for conceive it, believe it, achieve it. And it's a great story. And, I had a friend of mine said that the two biggest victories probably in college football this year were in the Power Four, Vanderbilt beating Alabama, and in Group of Five, it's ULM 21, James Madison, the Dukes 19. That's how big that game was. They scored 70 the week before on North Carolina, and you held them to 19. So it's a great story. I got to ask both of y'all real quick some basketball stuff. I like Buck Wade. He's down in Florida. We talk a lot of basketball on this show, and we really do. And I'm not going to be Dan Mullen. We'll talk about recruiting during recruiting season. Basketball practice has already started, folks. And we've got two guys that played college basketball on this show right now. Matt Dean coached for 32 years, men's and women's basketball. And John Hartwell played basketball at the Citadel. And at 6'7", can still move around on the court and is legendary SEC basketball announcer and former shoe salesman for the Converse Shoe Company. Joe Dean would say about John Hartwell, John Hartwell from Mobile, UMS High School, little Stufferino and the Citadel Duckerino, downtown Lexington, KY, little string music. Man, I love basketball. I'm just saying that. So we will talk a lot about it. Johnny Ballpark Franks is joining us right now too. Man, we got the band together right now. And Johnny, we were just talking with John about his coach down there, Bryant Vincent, who was on this show about 6 weeks ago. And we cover SEC, and there's a lot of tectonic plates around us. We're going to cover some about. We're going to cover a lot of football around the country. But these are some great stories right now. Johnny, what are you seeing right now? You're an FSU alum. You do a great show on the UMP every Monday afternoon, 5 to 7 p.m. in the Rocket City, Huntsville, Alabama, which is a suburb of Madison, Alabama, the way that city's growing. But how you doing, man? Welcome back.
Life is good. What am I seeing? I am pulling for Army or Navy to win the national championship in college football this year. That's what I'm seeing. Yeah, how cool is that story? But boy, we knew we were going to get chaos this year as far as in college football, and I was not expecting this. I mean, right now I see 8 teams. I think they have separated themselves in the SEC as far as being the best as far as the 2 teams that can make it. But I see 8 teams in the SEC fighting for those 4 spots as far as the college football playoff. I mean, how strange. We always talked about, trying to fight it out throughout the year to get to one of those 4 playoff spots. And then you breathe a sigh of relief. These coaches breathed a sigh of relief thinking, wow, we got 12 spots. It's going to be a lot easier. It doesn't look easy to me because I think parity, and I think with the transfer portal especially, I think there's so many teams out there that could still be one of those 12 spots. The fact that we're talking Army and Navy as one of those 12 spots, I think that just shows you how drastically changed the college football landscape is. And then how about the fact that Mississippi State and Oklahoma are battling it out for the worst team in the SEC this year in football?
Well, there's look at John's story down there with ULM at 5-1. I mean, they could win the Sun Belt this year. And Matt, watching Tyler's, your son's on the staff at Oregon, that story, I think what we did without realizing it, and I thought this might happen, guys. And John, you've what's cool is, John, you've been out there in the Mountain West. And Tim Horton and you have taught me a lot about football out there. It's making us pay attention more than I think we ever have to games all over the country that we didn't even give a second thought to in the past. Matt, your wife was out in Oregon last week. You can go from Memphis to DFW nonstop to Eugene, Oregon. They're not stupid out there. They got a direct flight to DFW. There's a few football players in Texas. I just noticed that, Matt.
Well, there's a few football players on the Oregon roster from the state of Texas, but I haven't seen John in a while, man. I've texted you a couple times, man. I'm really excited for your kids, your staff, you, John. I mean, we all know to win a football game 1 week is hard, but to do what you guys done in the first 6 weeks, and when I talk to my son, the motto is always 1-0. Even though you have a big win over James Madison, it's about going 1-0 the next week, and how soon you can forget about the past and engage in the future. Ironically, I texted my son before the game. You got 2 versus 3. Ohio State is just a Cadillac, guys. They are the real deal. And I said, Ty, regardless what happens, man, just enjoy the moment because you're involved in kind of like an instant classic, right? And don't forget, about 12 hours later, son, it's on to Purdue. And that's why Bill Belichick's one of the greatest of all time. I mean, you give him the presser, win or lose, it's on to Cincinnati, right? And
Yeah.
I think Johnny makes a really good point. This chaos, this parity, think about this, Johnny, if you're right, which I think you are, think about how we're going to determine those
Like
last
that.
two SEC teams. Okay, if they haven't had head-to-head, they got different schedules. The committee, guys, has a really hard job this year. I know it's supposed to be easier with 12, but determining who those teams are from some of those power conferences, it's going to be interesting, their methodology, John Hartwell. I know you've been on a lot of committees before. I'm curious your thoughts on how that committee room is going to go, like 5 through 12.
Yeah, and following up on what both you and Johnny said, and Johnny, good to see you.
Good
Hope
seeing you,
all is
buddy.
well in the Rocket City. I think he's exactly right. The top 6, 7, maybe even 8 are going to be pretty easy to come by. Obviously, you're going to know who your conference champions are, and there'll probably be 4 more that pretty clearly separate themselves out. But when you get to those last 4 teams in, there's going to be a lot of jockeying, and it will be interesting to see, just like picking picking teams for the NCAA tournament. What's the most important? Is it who's hot lately? Is it strength of schedule? Is it, can you get by with an early bad loss if you played well the last, 8, 9, 10 weeks? All of those things are going to factor in there. And just like the NCAA tournament, when you get down to last 4 in and first 4 out, you're going to have some pretty strong arguments both ways. But, the committee, the great thing about the CFP committee, and they've been doing this for several years, obviously it's now expanding from 4 to 12. And I've been fortunate enough to do it. They have had athletic directors in, they've had, university presidents, they've had some media folks in, kind of going through the mock exercise, and it's quite entailed. It's not eeny, meeny, miny, mo. It's pretty strategic in how it's done. And keep in mind, what are we, 2 weeks out from their first unveil, if you will, of their rankings, and they'll meet each subsequent week right up until December 8th when their final poll is released. So it's going to be must-see TV for sure. And in a lot of games, like Rob said, you're going to have to watch some of those 10:30 p.m. Eastern time Boise kicks to see what they do. And there are quite a few teams vying for that one group of 5 spot. Is it Army? Is it Navy? Is it Boise? Is it a one-loss ULM who can run the table? There are a bunch of stories left there, and a lot of football and a lot of fun and exciting football left to play. And I think that is one of the many benefits of expanding to 12 teams, because there's a lot of teams that have an opportunity to get in.
That's right.
Yeah, Johnny, I want to throw this one at you. And you start looking around at what he just said. Everybody's going to look at the 12. It's going to be 13 and 14 and 15 that don't get in. You know what I'm going to miss? I'll tell you, talking about those 10:30 games at night, 11:30, I'm going to miss Bill Walton on those damn basketball games at night.
Yeah.
I love that guy. I mean, I still have PTSD from 1973 when they beat my Memphis State Tigers. He was 21 of 22. And I mean, the redhead, but I met him about 6 years ago in Memphis at a speech, and he was just sitting over in the corner waiting to talk. And I just was talking to the guy, and his parents were both librarians. He's just John, I love it because my kids, one's out in California now, and they go out to Jackson, Wyoming, and Moose and places like that. Those people love the Cowboys. They love the Aggies where you were at Utah State. Johnny, if you're writing a story right now, where do you start about this college football season? I want to ask you, Johnny, first, where does the SEC stack up compared to the other conferences right now?
The SEC is totally beating up on itself right now. Hey, let this sink in. Can you just imagine, wrap your arms around Vanderbilt being in the playoff? And you laugh at that, but then I tell you right now, they're 2 plays away from being undefeated. Remember, they get Texas next week. Well, Texas is coming off an emotional game Saturday night against Georgia. Then Texas has to come into Nashville. You think Texas is going to be motivated to play at Vanderbilt in Nashville? Yes, I understand. If they win that game against Georgia, they're number one. But they better not lose to Vanderbilt, because remember, Texas has to play Texas A&M at the end of the year. If you have, say, two losses, depending on who you lose to in the SEC, could eliminate you. If you're Alabama and Tennessee this weekend, you better be treating that game as an elimination game, because you cannot afford to lose anymore, because they may be 5, 10-2 teams in the SEC, and all 5 of those teams will not get into the playoff.
I mean, it's going to, guys, it's almost, where do you, okay, Matt, what's going on at Oregon? That was the biggest win in Dan Lanning's career. Where do they go from here? And now, you know, a stat that I heard yesterday, the time zone chart, when the teams are, how they're covering the point spread when they have to pass through 3 time zones. Matt, you've been out to Oregon a lot. You know, I tell you who's in Oregon, Sarah Cooley. She's the marketing director of Exo Armor. That's one of our sponsors on this show. She's in Portland, Oregon. And she said, oh, I'm a Duck. Absolutely. And she is wired in to the Ducks. Yeah. And Exo Armor, we've got the QR code. Just kind of put Brendan on the spot here, but they make non-invasive pads and braces for athletes. And you can subscribe to the service. Look on there, Exo Armor. And they use 3D printers. And athletic directors like John and Matt, they can have a player injure a wrist or sprain a wrist or an ankle, and they can have a brace made by the third quarter with that 3D printer, and he's back in the game. And it's sports. They are based out of Auburn at the Research Park, but Sarah Cooley is their marketing director. They've got sales reps that are NFL guys and college guys. They're all over. You wouldn't believe the who's who of colleges. John Hartwell, I would contact Exo Armor. Tell them you heard about it on Sidelines. It's a game changer. Look at the schools, Sarah Cooley and the folks at Exo Armor. But John, you know, out west, let me ask you this: we're going to get into some game picks too, because I want to talk about the Kentucky game at Florida. I think Florida's lost the last 3 to Kentucky, and I'm gonna throw this to you, John. There's good football players all over the country, and those guys that were second and third teamers on a lot of schools, they're punching the portal button, and they're showing up on the other side of the line of scrimmage against you. So when Auburn plays a New Mexico State like they did last year, it's like, whoa, this ain't your grandfather's New Mexico State. Diego Pavia, wow, where'd he come from? Albuquerque? What's it like out there, John? I mean, I think those people, hey, if Rip is indicative of the kind of males that are out west in Montana and Wyoming, we need to be recruiting. Give me Rip as a middle linebacker is all I got to say from Yellowstone.
Yeah, well, you make a great point, Rob, and a couple of items here. One, you know, with the transfer portal, not that we didn't have, you know, games previously pre-transfer portal where guys knew each other. They played against each other in high school, you know. From time to time, it got a little chippy. But I'll say this, from an officiating standpoint, they are having to watch that even more, especially when you have guys who may have been college teammates previously.
Yeah.
1 transferred out or 3 transferred out, and they're playing against their old team. I mean, that's happening in about every game every Saturday. And
yeah,
you know, that's just one of those byproducts of the transfer portal. But here's the other thing I'll say, and I was in a lengthy meeting with some donors and our head coach 2 nights ago. Hey, yeah, success at a place like ULM, who hasn't had it in a while, is a great thing. But one of the byproducts is there are already people, you know, whether directly, they're not supposed to do it directly, or indirectly, you know, contacting players. Hey, you know, I've seen this guy and what he did against James Madison. Hey, you know, whether they're talking to mama or grandmama or the high school coach or whoever it may be. And you know, I'll be very candid. Part of that meeting the other night was to get, from our collective standpoint, a war chest to fend off some of these folks come, December when the transfer portal is there and there are firm offers on the table. I know that's not supposed to happen, but I'm giving you real talk of what's happening.
It's happening all over. You're right, John.
Yeah. Well, and John, God, that's what I hate, the tampering part of it. I just obviously I've graduated from Auburn. I love my school, but man, doing this show, getting to cover, it's a privilege to cover all these 16 schools because I do get excited. I get excited about all these fan bases. We got a lot of Gators that watch this show. They have helped us build this brand. Gator Bait Media, the Buddy Martin Show, Best Fridays in Football with Urban Meyer. I don't like to see anybody lose because it's like I've got 16 kids now, and they're going to have to go against each other. They do it every weekend. But, man, there's so many great stories that are out there, and you're right there with one of them, John Hartwell. All right, Matt, I want to ask you, Kentucky at Florida this weekend. DJ Lagway, y'all know the psychology of it. I'm going to go John, I'm going to go Matt, then Johnny, and then John. Kentucky, Florida with a freshman quarterback, Gatorade Player of the Year out of Texas, DJ Lagway. Graham Mertz, y'all saw what Ben Troop put out on X. This is why you love college football. People like Ben Troop.
I love Ben Troop, by the way. Ben Troop.
I do too. He was on the show with us Monday, thanking Graham Mertz for what he did. Hey, they didn't win an SEC title or anything like that. But when you are a student athlete or you know them, you know what they contribute. And there is a bond and a connection there forever. But, Matt, let's talk about Gators and Wildcats. This is Kentucky coming down here trying to make it 4 in a row. Gators can't let that happen.
I think if Florida wins the turnover battle, let's say they can be +1, keep it out of Kentucky's hands. Kentucky has a hard time scoring, let's be honest.
Yeah.
I like Florida in a close one.
Johnny Ballpark Franks.
You cannot win if you're playing not to lose. And if you're Florida, like on Saturday night, how do you not go for the 2-point conversion? You're playing scared. So here's also that message you're sending to your players. I don't believe that you can get a 3-yard, execute a play like that. So give me Kentucky. I think, I personally, if I was the athletics director, I know it doesn't matter at this point. I would already have an interim head coach at Florida because right now, Billy Napier, in that situation, you cannot go for a win on a Saturday night. And so, give me Kentucky. Give me everybody else except for by the W on Florida's schedule. Give me everybody else, even Florida State. The rest of the way against the Gators.
And John, as an athletic director, I've seen these pictures of you down there. Just you look like one of the play. I thought you were one of the players with his helmet off. 6'7". I mean, wow. Bryant Vincent looks small compared to you. You look like Hulk Hogan. By the way, Audrey and I have been watching the last few nights a documentary on Netflix about Mr. McMahon and Jim McMahon.
Good.
Man, that's holy cow. And
hey, John, don't put the ball on the court there. I'm going to go through your legs and take it away.
That's right. But John, what do you think? DJ Lagway, as a quarterback, he's so impressive. He's a freshman, but what do you think is going to happen down there? We're going to go over some more games with y'all because, ULM is off this weekend. You play the Jags on the 26th in Mobile. You're going home. That's John Hartwell's homecoming. Be a lot of his family and friends there. But what do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, I think it's going to be a heck of a football game because you've got two different trains of thought. Obviously Kentucky beating Ole Miss, early. Folks were pretty high on them, even despite the South Carolina loss. But right now they're in danger of going 1-4 in the SEC with Ole Miss being the only win. As Johnny talked about, you've got indecision or uncertainty about the coaching situation at Florida. I will say, I do think part of the reason why you're not seeing such early season changes or announcements of changes in coaches, again, goes back to the transfer portal. I think it's strategic in some cases from the athletic director or those making the decisions to say, hey, the earlier we do this, the more time there is for kids or whoever their decision makers are to say, hey, we're going to be out of here. And the likelihood of them naming, especially if it's a sitting head coach before, decision day for the transfer portal is not very high. So I think some folks are hedging those decisions, even though they may already be made in their head. But I'm gonna go Stoops here. I'm gonna say Stoops got his back against the wall. I'm going with the Wildcats.
All right, now the Gator, and again, I've watched Florida. We all have for a long time. You got everything in the world going for you, but you've also got UCF, USF, FAU, FIU, Miami, Florida State, 7 D1 football programs in the state of 23 million people. Texas has about 30 million people that we know of, with 14 Division I schools. What do you think, Johnny?
I was going to say, I'm not so sure I agree with you, Rob, because yes, like George is talking about, I can't go through another coaching change. At what point is it the problems above you? The administration, as far as the athletics administration, also the school administration. Florida, of all places, had the chance to we should be talking about Florida being the leader of facilities and everything else in the 90s under Steve Spurrier. They had those opportunities. Instead, they're one of the last people at the table kind of thing as far as inside the SEC. I don't understand that. So at what point do you start pointing upwards instead of sideways at these coaches and these coaching staffs? Even with that said, I still think, and with what Billy Napier did, that is a firing offense on Saturday, knowing where you are with your program. But before we start thinking it's just a coaching situation and coaching problem, you better start looking at the administration.
Well, it's a cultural issue. Matt, when you've got a president at a university that is hands off, and if he doesn't like football, you got problems. You really do. I met the chancellor at Arkansas, Dr. Charles Robinson, a couple of weeks ago, Friday, and again Sunday. This guy's impressive, man. He spent a lot of time just talking to me. I mean, I'm like, why does he give a damn about me? But he came and got on the show for 15 minutes, and he came to a scholarship luncheon that our host, Jim and Pat McClellan up in Fayetteville, gave out 25 scholarships, them and all their fellow donors. And he came over there to that, talked to all those kids, went up and shook hands with all of them. That's the kind of president that I want, who's down on the sidelines at a game. Now, I don't know if I want a Jerry Jones type guy down on the sidelines, but what do you think, Matt? And that's Johnny brought up some great points. Look, what you got to look at the people around you. I just think my opinion on Billy Napier is I think there's too much thinking going on, and it's paralysis by analysis. You got to just, hey, we're going for 2, no question.
So as a former athletic director, and I know John's a sitting athletic director, I just thought for me, the biggest relationship I had as an athletic director was my president. And no matter what we want to say here about ADs ruling the roost, I'll be quite honest with you. That is not the case. Now, I think hiring, the whole HR perspective, if you get the right person, you are glorified. And then if you don't, sometimes people are coming at you and you're trying to protect yourself. It's no different than the NFL when these guys get rid of coordinators, right? They're trying to protect themselves. But for me, I always want to stand by the people I hire. So I would, Johnny, I may differ a little bit with you in that situation. We couldn't convert several times inside the 10-yard line. What makes you think we're going to make a 2-point conversion, right? So, I mean, I get what you're saying. I just think for now, for Florida, it's about developing kids, and can we get bowl eligible?
Yeah.
And maybe you guys are right. Maybe it's already a done deal. We don't know about it. John raises a really good point. Why do we want to do this right now for other reasons? But I'm just telling you, to Johnny's point too, it is above him. It's above the coaching. It starts from the top down. If you don't take advantage of when you're hot, and you go cold again, you may never get back up. That's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. Let me say something real quick before we go to John about one of a new sponsor that just joined us Tuesday, Landers Ford in Collierville, Tennessee. Go to the LandersFordCollierville.com website. Open Monday through Saturday, 8 a.m., 7 p.m. Service department opens 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. They're located right there at the corner of Poplar and Houston Levee. Check them out. Brad Bellamy, the general manager. Go to him. You call out there to Landers Ford in Collierville. He's the quarterback. He'll get you hooked up with the salesman to help you walk you through the process. They got a big lot with a massive inventory. And those of you that are watching from all over, they can deliver vehicles anywhere. They put them on the trucks, they ship them to you, and it's dropped off in your driveway. Landers Ford, where their motto is, if you didn't buy your last vehicle from Landers Ford, you probably paid too much. Really, really proud and honored to have them as a sponsor. And I'm telling you, you look around this area, they've got their name on 6 different stadiums just in this area. Great people to work with. They follow through. You can't be in the business that long unless you're that good. Landers Ford Collierville. John, you've got a relationship with your president. You're a big guy. I would not want to get sideways with you. I'm serious. I mean, that picture of you doing the Hulk with Bryant Vincent on. I mean, if I'm a football coach, I am digging it that my AD has my back like this. And if I fall, he ain't going to be just screaming at me. He learned at the Citadel, okay? You save that for rare special occasions, but you're consistently there. And what did an AD at a pretty big-time school say to you in the press box a few weeks ago? John, I see you're working your magic again at ULM. John Hartwell, take it from here.
Yeah,
we're on the goal
think,
line.
And I don't think being an AD is any different than being a CEO in private business. Yeah. You've got to have alignment. Now, that doesn't mean everything every day you agree with your president going up or your head coach going down, but you damn sure got alignment, especially in the public eye. You can't sacrifice that. And I go back to the comment that was made. I think Johnny made it about presidents and their involvement. Some presidents are it depends on the president. Some presidents don't have very much background in athletics, and they are strategic in how they pick an athletic director. And
I've been around those. I understand, John.
but there's 2 types there. There's one of those that wants to meddle and say, hey, we should do this, we should do that. But he's already, or she has admitted up front that they don't know anything about it. There are others that say, hey, I've hired you as the athletic director. You go do your job. I'm not going to get in the way. Call me if you need help. Let me know if there's an issue I'm going to read about in the newspaper. And those work well too. And then you've got a third category, those who've been involved, who know athletics. And I'll say the guy that is the example to me was my first. He's actually, their title there is Chancellor, Jack Hawkins at Troy. He's been there 32 years. That guy totally gets athletics. He gets academics, but he knows that athletics can be a vehicle in which to increase the branding and the recognition of the university, to drive enrollment, to do all of those things. And so you've got to know, what kind of president, in terms of upward glance in your organization that you're dealing with. But clearly from an athletic standpoint, the AD and the football coach, especially at the FBS level, there's got to be alignment there. And if somehow that gets askew, it's really difficult to have success without it.
Well, I got to say something. I love Gator George. The sun is just starting to come up in Portland, Oregon. In another half an hour, it will be daylight out here. I love these viewers all over the place. Thank you, George, for watching. It sounds a lot like Dan Bornay down at LSU. The sun will set in the western sky in 30 minutes. It will be, football time in Death Valley. I like what you said. Do you want a president like Jerry Jones, who's really hands-on, or do you want one that's kind of in the background like Howard Sprague? I mean, I don't know. I want a guy that understands about money and understands about doing it the right way. But you got to know how to read people when you're hiring a football coach. You want someone that most of the questions on big business deals, 95% of them are not even about business. The people are checking you for the answers that you give them. Johnny Ballpark Franks from Huntsville, Alabama, a 6'1", 189-pound sophomore, has the floor.
Hey, I was just going to say, if you're a president, if you don't know of what athletics is all about in college football, especially in the SEC, you better know, or you better have a right-hand person that can tell you and be in your ear, because look at Tuscaloosa. Everybody thinks it's just about football and the athletics program in Alabama. Look what happened. And this is a program that already had won national championships. Look at the Nick Saban effect, not just with the athletics program, but also the administration, the city, all the other departments on that campus, enrollment, all the money, not just donated to athletics. I'm talking about all the money donated to the university and all these other departments. And so if you're in the SEC, you better know. And then also, if you're a coach, like everybody, all these other conferences are different other than the SEC and Big Ten. But even the SEC, it's different, because if you're not winning by year 2, are you going to take the chance of being further behind in year 3 with that coach if you're not showing an improvement? With all the money at stake, knowing now there's 16 teams, top to bottom, that's trying to improve their athletics program, if you're not successful, Hugh Freeze, in the second year of your program, then you better be thinking about who your next coach is going to be. Because I don't have faith right now, and I have to watch every Auburn game play by play, not only keeping up with it, but also because my wife is an Auburn fan. And there's nothing about Auburn's program right now that tells me this is going to get better in year 3. So when you're in that situation, if you're one of the have-nots in a conference like the SEC, if you're the president, if you're that administration, if you're those boosters, you better be thinking about who your next guy is going to be.
Well, I'll say this, guys, that every Auburn coach, starting with Pat Dye, has won at least 8 games in his second year. But I have never seen a roster as depleted as what I've seen out of Auburn in terms of linemen, offensive linemen. So, yeah, you're right. Changing coaches frequently. Look at Tennessee, wandering in the wilderness for a long time. Florida, everybody's got to be careful. If money can solve it, it's not really a problem. There's a lot more than just the money. Matt Dean from Davenport, Iowa, again, give us some practical, good advice on, let's say let's put you, I'm going to play make believe. We got a few minutes left. We're going to pretend you're the athletic director at the University of Florida.
Wow.
And if Kentucky comes in and wins 77-3 in the Swamp Saturday, what do you do besides drink a 30 rack of hams and then a 30 rack of Crystals?
Well, first of all, I don't know how the hell Kentucky's going to score 77 points.
I know.
In 3 games, let alone
hypothetical.
1 game. But I want to quickly. I thought Johnny raised a great point. When I was the AD, I went directly to the president's right-hand person more than directly to her. Johnny, to your point, my president was not, let's say, athletic savvy, though she understood the importance of athletics.
Right.
But if I had something I needed, I went directly to the number 2. And you better hope as an AD you have a good relationship with number 2, because then you're really in trouble. But anyway, to your point, and I know John probably believes this a little bit, what I'm saying, every really good AD has a short list of 2 or 3 people that if they have to make a change.
Every position.
They know where they're going. I mean,
in pencil.
Absolutely. So I know what direction I'm going. And, I'll say this up front. If Florida makes a change this time around, I may go after one of the better coordinators in the country and someone that's involved in a program that has had success recruiting and has had a tremendous offense or defense. Here's another thing I believe in. You always, and this is an NFL, they talk about these great offensive coordinators and they want to pick them away and make them head coaches. There are some coordinators, guys, that aren't going to be head coaches. You got to have the ability, like Dan Campbell, to get in the locker room and win the locker room. Doesn't mean you're a great offensive guy. Doesn't mean that you're a great defensive guy, but you got to be a great locker room person. You got to handle relationships. You got to handle situations. And sometimes these coordinators that we hire, just because statistically they look good, are not great in the locker room. So if I'm in that situation, I know 2 or 3 coordinators right now that I want to take a chance on.
Well, anybody that's an officer in the military will tell you that you're a platoon leader, you're a company leader, or battalion commander. You still have an XO, but you've got a command master sergeant, sergeant major, first sergeant. That's the guy who really runs things for you. Yep. At a university, John, you've got the president, the big office, the big salary, the big name, but who really executes the game plan of the board of trustees, the board of regents? It is the provost. And if a guy's been a provost at a university, a big school, he's usually going to make an outstanding president, a.k.a. Dr. Bill Hardgrave, who was at Auburn, Dean of College of Business, provost, now the president at the University of Memphis. God, what a out of Clarksville, Arkansas, first person in his family to go past 10th grade. This is the greatest country in the history of the world. You can make a living with your hands. You can make millions with your mind. John Hartwell, you make millions with your brain and your ability to select coaches. What's it like? Let's say Johnny's a coach or Matt's a coach or I'm a coach. You probably don't take the interview with me, but I watched you hire Missy Bilderback, Bryant Vincent. We talk, I mean, not divulging either, but you've just got the ability. You can read a room. That's powerful stuff, man.
John, would you hire me, by the way? John, would you hire me? I'm just curious. I got stuck at the associate AD level. I never got to the AD level. So,
hey, you stayed one step below the firing line, so that's not all bad.
That's right.
So, hey, well, I appreciate the kind words there, Rob. Yeah, God has blessed me with a talent, and I am very thankful for that. But here's the thing. Wow, I know we're towards the end of the show, but there's so many great points being brought up here. Let me go back to one thing that Matt said. Yeah, the right-hand person, you better have a relationship there. Hey, and it doesn't hurt. I know you mentioned provost, and it is that at some campuses, but it's also the VP of finance and administration a lot of places. And, at a level like ours, you can't forget that the university is often your number one donor. So you better take care of those folks too. So that's a key there. Our man George out there in Portland, he must have got up at like 3:00. He must be hyped up on like his 4th cup of coffee.
I love this guy. I want to get him on the show.
He makes a great point about an athletic department being run like a Fortune 500 corporation. And that's where oftentimes the rub or the disconnect between the academic side of the house and the athletic side of the house comes into play. And I will say this, and I was fortunate enough to do this. When you're running an athletic department, you do have to treat it like a business. Yeah. And oftentimes what is so difficult for folks on the academic side of the house to understand is spending money to make money. When you make a coaching change, people can say, how in the heck can we afford this big dollar buyout? Well, you look at what it's the hit that if you don't make that change is doing to ticket sales, concessions, merchandise sales. There's a lot of things that go into that, across campus, sometimes they just go, oh my gosh, athletics is this 900-pound gorilla and they're just hemorrhaging money. And what the heck are they doing? And I think that's where it's important to have communication. You can't tell everything you're doing. There's some things that are done in confidence, but you've got to run it like a corporation. So George, on that 3rd cup of coffee that got you on fire out there in Portland, you're dead on there.
Yeah,
John,
he's right.
And right, Rob, I was just going to say that's the reason why I got out of college athletics, because I started taking all the funds that I was raising to do the publications and the media relations, but I put it through the foundation. And then our AD came in from Memphis, he couldn't do his job very well. And he was on the hot seat. He was trying to steal my money. I wouldn't let him. Then he tried to sabotage me. He sabotaged me with the vice president of finance. And I finally said, I'm done. I'm just not going to play these games anymore. It's not worth it. I had 2 ruptured discs because of the stress, because my immediate boss didn't know how to do his job. And that's not they never would give me the AD job, but I was always invited to all these meetings I had no reason to be in by the president, because the president knew he could count on me. But because of the color of my skin, I'll say it, I would never get the AD job, but I had all that power. But I wouldn't let my AD touch the money, because I knew he couldn't. He was trying to steal what you got to spend money to make money. And that's what I had done. But unfortunately, my AD didn't know how any of that worked. And so I totally agree with you, John. The vice president of finance, if you're in any type of a role as far as leadership role, if you don't have that backing, you might as well be looking for another job.
Yeah. And you've got to have, if I'm the president or I'm John, I would have my meetings with a round top table with no chairs. We could knock it out in about 10 minutes. I saw it every day at Fort Benning, 3rd Ranger Battalion. I'd be a reporter. I'd be out there. It didn't take 5 minutes. And the commanding officer, a colonel, battalion commander, any questions on the mission? Sir, yes, go ahead. We can have air support. Negative. Any other questions? Hoorah, let's go. Bam, done. Well, Johnny's making so many great points, as is Matt, as are you. When we look at what's going on, I think what this panel today did, and thank y'all a million times over, is make it more clear to people how this process works. I mean, the provost executes the game plan. That's the guy that rolls, and you better have a good provost. I think Vinnie Nathan is the provost at Auburn, came from the College of Architecture. She's really good. It's Dr. Charles Robinson, I keep talking about at Arkansas. He was a history professor for 25 years. He knows that campus. He goes, well, I'm from Texas, but I'm a Razorback. He's from Houston. But I think the more we learn about these presidents, the more we can make qualified decisions and opinions. But John, you're with one of the best stories in college football this year. There's so many of them. But, man, where do you start? My dad goes, boy, any games on tonight? I go, Dad, just go to ESPN and start from there, because he's still looking for the newspaper to list all the games. You have to have every game's on TV now. All I can say is, wow, John, you're off this weekend, but I'm watching. I want one of those PTW LFG shirts. You're probably down on 30A, but you're working. But this has been an unbelievable panel here today with all 3 of y'all. Can't say enough good things. And those of you watching, we really hammer it out with basketball. We hammer it out with baseball, recruiting. We're going to cover it all. We are here to serve. And I want to say, without it, Hewlett and Dunn yesterday, all I can tell you is go to the website. Charles Hall, the owner, and I were talking. They've updated the website, HewlettandDunn.com, HEWLETT and Dunn, DUNN.com. They got so much stuff on there. Barber, Filson, Duckheads, 7,000 pairs of men's and women's boots. I will say this. Our sponsors are incredible. We're blessed to have them, and we're going to redo the website. And before we leave, let me just say this. Pick the games right now, the biggest game that y'all see this weekend, and we'll tag out. I'll start with Matt Dean, John Hartwell, and Johnny Ballpark Franks. Biggest game this weekend in the SEC, and give me your winner. Matt?
I got Texas at home beating Georgia.
Okay. John Hartwell.
Yeah, I mean, that's our one loss, the Texas Longhorns, and we didn't even see Ewers. We saw Manning, who filled in admirably. Texas is the real deal. I would go with the Longhorns as well.
Johnny Ballpark Franks.
I'm going to go with Alabama and Tennessee, because I really do believe where we stand that the loser of that game may be on the outside of the playoff.
I'm going with Georgia to beat Texas in Austin. Everybody can't be right at the same time. Nobody's giving Georgia a chance, and something tells me they're going to happen. And Kentucky, Florida, that's the one more. John?
Yeah,
Y'all already
I'm
picked
going
that. You already
Kentucky.
picked that. You took Kentucky.
Yep, Kentucky. Hey guys, I got to run.
Yep.
As always, great
John,
being on with
nice to
y'all.
meet you.
Enjoy your weekend. ULMWarhawks.com. John_Hartwell on X. Gonna enjoy the weekend. Unfortunately, I'm here. I was not able to go to 30A, but it will be nice to relax and watch a little football and get ready to go to God's country next weekend. LA, Lower Alabama, as we face the
bring
Jaguars.
Phil Robertson and Uncle Si on here, or Willie, or any of them, anytime. We'd love to have them. Okay, so just telling you that.
Congratulations,
Thanks, guys.
John.
Congratulations, John.
Thanks,
Thank you,
Johnny. You and Matt. This season it's playing out. I think for the TV people, they got to be loving it. I asked my son Wilson. He's really good. We pick the games together every weekend. He goes, this coming weekend, it's getting like the game of the century, act 1, 2, and 3 in the same season. Every weekend, there's so
Look
many
at
damn
last
good
Saturday,
games.
all these games coming into overtime or final plays. I thank goodness for YouTube TV, where you don't have to watch all the games. They have a thing where you just go to the game and it runs
Multi-view.
30 or 4. Well, no, I'm talking about it when they've played out. You just go to the game and you can watch their 30 to 40 top plays, and bam, there's the game right there for you. I was able to go through about 20 games like that on Saturday night.
That's what we've got, the YouTube streaming, and that's the only way to watch football now. And I go to my parents; they have Direct TV, and I'm like, it's kind of like having a rotary phone,
I know, yeah, exactly.
How'd you like to be cold calling
And
trying to sell bonds?
It's half the price.
Yeah, it's cheaper. Exactly. Maybe you're a few seconds behind. Just be careful who you're talking to during the game.
No, Rob. What Johnny Paul Mark Franks is talking about, he's talking about they do a summary of all the games where they cut out all the in between, everything else. They just go snap to snap or snap to whistle.
And it is amazing. It's really, if some games.
Wait, Johnny? You can go through a whole game in like 4 minutes, 5 minutes if you're just scrubbing.
Absolutely, it's wonderful.
I mean, Matt, you're a junkie. This is right, man. The things that you learn, YouTube streaming is fascinating. Hey, catch us live, Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. We live in the greatest country in the history.
Hey, we're on YouTube streaming, by the way.
We're YouTube streaming right now. So, hello, YouTube. Howdy out there, everybody.
Hey, just before you kick these guys off, sorry, I've had a lot of parental duties today, including forgetting lunch, which I just went and dropped off really fast.
Our mobile producer, I love this.
Hey, man, single dad. What do you want?
I love it.
Johnny, and especially Matt, this game, Florida. Okay, and I got cut off earlier, and I wanted to talk about really quick is that Billy Napier is continuously in that, waiting for the down dirty card, the river card, whatever it is in gambling, or you play Texas Hold'em. Billy just always seems to have one more shot, one more card, right? And I feel like, and I heard you talking earlier, Matt, and whatever, but I feel like this win, because of where Kentucky is right now, and because they continue, because they kind of matter. And now all of a sudden, Kentucky and Vanderbilt are just like things we talk about, like they're good. But anyway, I digress.
Brendan, you
watch. Go Commodores, man! And I always said, watch out when the smart kids get good, because they're screwed, because they're smart on top of it. So they're good and they're smart. So
with that offense, with what Vanderbilt's doing with that offense, the fact that Texas has to focus on Georgia, watch Texas beat Georgia and then come into Nashville and lose to Vanderbilt.
I'm not sold on Texas. Just because you got to run the gauntlet in the SEC. You said it perfect, Johnny. Like you said it. You're like, look, the SEC's beating up the SEC right now. And that's what people don't. If you don't follow the SEC, you don't get it. You don't get it that when Texas, you look at the score, sure, Texas beat Mississippi State. Yeah, no, but you understand that, like, it took them 4 quarters to put them down. You know what I mean? Like, they just wouldn't go. Like, when you watch these games, you got to put, like, all of a sudden you're seeing flea flicker reverse, double two-tone with a flip daddy pass on, like, one. like when you're not supposed to see that till like, the ball game. You're seeing these plays early, and I think people have to understand when these guys, coaches don't like to bring out this stuff early, but when you got to bring that out to put out Mississippi State at like game 3 and game 4 of the week, welcome to the SEC. I just don't think you got to stay healthy and you got to have a little gluck and all that other stuff. I think that's important, but moreover, I just wanted to ask you guys, like the Kentucky game really interests me in a lot of different ways. Obviously, as a Gator fan, but as a football fan, as an interest in Billy Napier as a Gator, and as an interest is just because it's like drama, right, for men, and so like Billy just seems like he's just so close, like. I hated last week the most because it was such a rather good game for them as far as strategy and scheming. You hate to lose Graham Mertz, obviously, but I called that earlier in this year because when you don't have interior, you don't have that kind of like protection. That guy's got to put his body and his guts on the line. God bless him. He was great. He'll be a Gator forever. But now what do you like? What do? You're Billy Napier. You got to run this new guy out there. You got the transfer portal. People lions, tigers, snakes. Oh my! If Florida wins, what if Florida beats the shit out of Kentucky? Now where are you?
Yeah, what are you going to do?
What do you do?
Well, Brendan, if I'm a Florida fan, I want him to beat the shit out of Kentucky.
I hate Kentucky,
brother Theodore.
Kentucky,
yes, sir.
Kentucky sucks, and Kentucky should suck. And it's weird. And I'm in a weird dimension right now where Vanderbilt's good and Kentucky's good, and I want it to stop because it freaks me out.
Part of the reason you view him as good is because you're not as good, right? So that's a tough position to be in too. So it's a big game. I was the only one in the panel I think took Florida in a close game, and if they can play error-free football, Brendan, which is really hard to do, I think they win Saturday night. I really do, because Kentucky doesn't have that elite offense.
Error-free practice, bro.
I know, bro,
but they can't get the right personnel on the field still.
Let me ask you this.
Get the right guys on the field, bro.
2 weeks ago, before Tennessee lost to Arkansas, did you even think Florida would be in the game against Tennessee the way Tennessee was looking? Things changed.
No, I actually did. Honestly, I did. Rob. Yeah. What did you text me at what? Third quarter?
Rob's
like, I got the Gators to. Rob's like, I got the Gators to cover.
Oh yeah,
what do you think?
To cover. Yeah, I liked it.
And what did I say back to you, Rob?
You said they'll find a way to lose it.
Yeah, I said, don't worry. They'll lose. I didn't even be like, rah, go Gators, nothing like that. I was like, don't worry. They can't. I said, Billy Napier can't close, and they're going to lose.
So Brendan is making
Last thing I got to say, I got to go. Last thing I want to say. So, Brendan, if Florida improves to the point that they not only win, but they play better football, how do you view Billy Napier going forward?
I view it as everybody else because right now Vanderbilt's losing. Vanderbilt's beating Alabama. Okay, right now, if you're gambling and losing your ass, here's the thing: do all your calculations, figure out who you think you're going to win, and then take the opposite of that because that's probably who's going to win. Because right now, I think if you think, Florida's going to lose, Billy's probably going to run the table now and just freak everyone out. Yeah, that's what's going to happen.
Matt, I know you, Matt. Awesome stuff. Johnny, jump in here. We'll close out. And just awesome show, man. I feel bad. George says, after the show's over out in Portland, there's nothing to do but watch a rerun of F Troop. Man.
George, that's what you do in Portland because weed's legal. So what are you going to else? I mean, go get a fish sandwich.
Johnny, see, I think it's all about adapting. I mean, look what happened with Kentucky against Georgia. They're 4th and 7 yards away, first down. Then you get a field goal to win the game. He didn't do it, thinking he could hold Georgia from getting a first down. That didn't happen. What happened against Ole Miss? Deep in their territory, 4th down. They went for it, got the first down, got the big play, got the touchdown, and winning. We're still waiting for Billy Napier to adjust to this level. He's still coaching scared. He's not coaching what got him to this job. He's coaching now trying to save it. I don't even know if he's trying to save his job anymore. I think he knows that he's got the almost $30 million payout coming in.
Is that what it is? Is it just dead man walking?
I think it's
here?
it might be. Why would you not, Brendan?
Johnny. I mean, you're like, dude. I respect you, by the way, hugely, more than you know, and so your opinion on the SEC really matters to me. So that's why I jumped in, like driving. I'm sitting in my driveway, and I didn't want to miss you because it's such an honor to have you on our show.
You're great.
Really a great guest. One of our favorite guys. That if anyone really wants to know what's going on in the SEC, you got to check out him. Check out his Twitter page and stuff. He really gets it. Does in-depth interview with coaches. Knows history. Understands culture. Understands the whole deal with the SEC.
There's a butt coming right here. I get the butt.
No. There is absolutely not a butt. I don't. I'm dead. No. Right now, you should. If you want to be in the know, you should follow you.
Think about this, Rob and Brendan. If somebody is telling you for the last 7 or 8 months, I mean, basically Billy Napier was fired before the season started if you lose to Miami, if you lose this game, because it's going to get tough the last 6 games. So if you're constantly look, people think these coaches are so thick-skinned. I've been around coaches all my life. Where it's just the opposite. They
Correct.
are the ones who say, "Oh, I don't read anything. I don't look at." That is BS. They pay attention to all of that, and they needed me. They needed the SIDs and media relations director guys to pump them up. Now they don't even get that. They've got that the circle around them, like meet the parents. And so at what point, if you keep being told you're going to get fired and then you lose a game like you gave to the point where before you even have a play like that in practice, you already know what you're going to do. So if you're one play away from winning a game, you're not even thinking about it. The players know you're going for it because you've already talked about it. Instead, he's coaching scared. He's coaching not to. Remember when the Eagles beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl? The Eagles weren't playing not to lose. They were playing to win. They took chances. Right. If you're Billy Napier in that situation, at your record, knowing what your conference record is, you're going for that win in regulation because you're not going to hold Tennessee in overtime. So,
well, okay. Right. And I'm going to ask you, Johnny, if you were going to be that guy, and sorry, Rob, I'm totally interrupting you because I can't hear shit. So I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I'm totally stepping on it. Okay, if you're gonna be Smash Mouth football legacy coach guy, right? A la Billy Napier, right? Who's got a ton of respect, right? Everyone loves Billy. I mean, they love him. He's a great guy. Yeah. I've never met him.
No, he's a nice guy.
Never done an interview with him. Anyway, I digress. And so he's got all of that going on. You're a Smash Mouth, go get him, beat you up guy, right? And you want to sock him in the mouth, all of these things, old school guy, right? You come out, that's your style of football. Okay, that's your offense. That's what you kind of pride yourself on. You get the ball back, you're on the 1 yard line in Tennessee, whatever, the 2 yard line, like really, really in the first half, going to make a huge difference here. In the SEC, and Johnny, I asked this question because you're in Neyland. It's loud.
It is
loud. It's loud stadium. Designed old school, Rob, like with that old flat stadium seating where it could fit like the Ark. The damn thing is massive, dude. And when they go on Rocky Top at night, that place goes nuts. And it is loud. Okay. And I love Tennessee. I mean, look, if I wasn't a Gator, I'd probably be a Vol because I mean, they have a great fan base and a great. Anyway, you got a chance to punch it in the end zone, run in at half. Be up. What, 10 points at that point? You're really just like really a shot in the arm, and you run out there with everyone and your mother knew you were going to call a QB sneak. And I don't know if Mertz audible out of it. I don't know what happened. But like to me, like I literally was folding laundry less excited. And I looked at it and I like, he doesn't get the damn touchdown. And I'm like, yep, I'm just not surprised. And it sucks because I'm like, I thought, man, damn it, the personnel are on the field. Like there's good players out there. There's really good athletes out there.
Brendan's fired up, isn't he?
You
No,
can't
do.
tell me you can't go and get me 2 yards right now, and you're going to call quarterback sneak when you got Montrell and everyone's running rough-shot, and you're going to call Graham Mertz, the guy who goes out hurt. You can't stop it.
Brendan, you know what I'm
Coach-
going to do, Rob? You know what I'm going to do in my future when I'm thinking about hiring a head coach? What do you do in Major League Baseball? You hire catchers because they're just your working man. They sweat. They lose 7 pounds every game. You know why Vanderbilt is winning? You know what position Clark Lee played in football? Fullback. Every once in a while, he would get to carry the ball, but he was that guy, never got his name, not unless he got caught with a penalty or something. And that guy knows how to check his pride. He checked his pride because I've been screaming for 25 years for Vanderbilt to run some kind of option, triple option, something that, because you're not going to beat Vanderbilt and beat Alabama doing it.
Read option.
So you got to bring that at Vanderbilt. Been saying it for 25 years, but nobody, head coach at Vanderbilt, would check their pride because this is the way I'm going to do it, and I can do it better. And guess what? They lose. Franklin won just enough with players that got into trouble to the point where Vanderbilt realized we don't want that. We can't have our players raping anybody, and so they pulled away from that type. But what Clark Lee is doing, he's a fullback. That means his pride is he just wants W's. He'll do anything to get a W. And if that means running that offense that nobody else is running except Army, Navy, and teams like that, then so be it. Because here we are with Vanderbilt beating teams they have no business beating.
Okay, so Johnny, you're a historian.
Yep.
Oh, I'm sorry, Rob. I'm on my cell phone, and I'm sorry if I jumped on you there. I just wanted to ask. Hey, Johnny, you're a historian of offensive and defenses, and I'll ask my question and hang up. Just kidding. That was a Rob line.
hey, coach.
Offensive and defensively, I want to ask you a really specific question. When Spurrier wins at Duke, right? And wait, this is two-parter. Spurrier wins at Duke, and like talking initially, right? Like when he comes in and he makes a difference. When Urban Meyer wins, it goes from Bowling Green, right? And then comes in, and when Urban comes in and wins at Florida specifically, with not a lot of guys in the tank, offensively. What kind of offense did they? You don't have to be specific, but generally, what kind of offensive did they run?
Well, the offense, obviously, it was the looking for whatever the short passes they can get out of there. And then when the defense cheat on those receivers, that's when they get busted for the longer plays. But you still have to tell, like on defense.
Well, but it's like a read option offensively, right. Would you say? Yeah.
Right. But hey, remember, I had Coach Saban, and it took Coach Saban 7 years at Alabama. He had already won 3 national championships, but he was stubborn. He wasn't changing his offense until he finally said, well, I'm going to hire Lane Kiffin. And he says, Lane, go out there and learn how to run the spread. And he said,
right, the fun and gun.
I asked Coach Saban, I said, in 2019, I said, what advice would you give Coach Saban, first-year head coach at Toledo in 1990? And he starts laughing and he says, run the spread. But even with winning 3 national titles at Alabama, it still took him 7 seasons into his career at Alabama before he finally said, okay, we're going to do the spread. And so a lot of these coaches just don't want to change. They're stubborn and set in their ways. And that's going to be the difference. That's going to be the difference if you succeed or not. That's why if we look at in Clemson and Dabo, if he doesn't eventually take advantage of the transfer portal, how much are the fans going to put up with that?
Urban Meyer says it on the podcast. He says, I don't win, without Dan Mullen, he doesn't win his national championships. He says it straight up. And B, he says, look, we won a lot of games that we shouldn't have won. We didn't have the best personnel on the field because we ran the read option. Because that gives you the best option to win. And I screamed about it last year. They had Max Brown, backup quarterback last year at Florida. And he's the kid that comes in at the end of the Missouri game when Florida comes charging back after Mertz goes down again. And I don't know if you remember that game. And they come charging back, and they have no really option because he's a baseball football player, kind of shorter, scat run guy, fast, really good arm, just an athlete kind of quarterback, and you got to run the read option with them. Well, they start running that at the end of the Missouri game. He drives them down there. He's the reason that they're in that game at the end of that game. And so you've got they. The point is that Billy had some success. He had to play him the following week, but do you think he comes back out and plays to the talents of the guys on the field? No, he doesn't.
Brendan,
That's the idea, guys. Like you gotta be humble. And that's my idea. That's my problem when you study the game, like Rob, obviously, and obviously you, Johnny, like these legacy coaches, sometimes that's a problem because you're very stubborn because dad did this, brother did this, so and so ran this offense, so and so's like this. This is how you win. This is how you do things, whatever. But that's fine. That's great. I have no problem with that. But when you walk into the SEC, son, there's a certain way how things are done, and that winning is one of those things. And that is it. That's a non-negotiable. You got it. You got to accept it to some degree. And there are blueprints out there that work. And I just think that a lot of these guys who try to go their other way and redesign and go and rebuild all this stuff are always the guys that we see just fall off the wayside and we never hear from them again.
Rob, this is the thing where Hugh Freeze was unique back when he was head coach at Ole Miss, but I think the league changed to the point where I don't blame the players at Auburn right now for what's going on as far as when you come out of a timeout and you don't execute on plays. This is coaching to me. And if you don't have the personnel to run those kind of plays, that's coaching that, for example, Thorne doesn't have better competition. That's on Hugh Freeze for not getting better competition other than freshmen, bringing in competition to compete with Thorne. It's not Thorne's fault if he doesn't execute on fourth down on some of these plays. I still look at Hugh Freeze as a problem at Auburn, for example, and it's about adapting or whatever. And the league changed in the time from when Hugh Freeze left Ole Miss to when he came back to Auburn.
Well, he did, and the league changed. And he spent time talking to Nick Saban and Kirby Smart. But I'll tell you right now, what Hugh Freeze did was he put everything into Peyton Thorne. Damn it, you saw what he was last year. And he was benched 4 times when he was at Michigan State. Why did you get so dead set on? He's a lot like Gus Malzahn in that respect. Gus was dead set that Jeremy Johnson was going to be the next Cam Newton because he was 6'5", 240. Took him to SEC media days. Jeremy Johnson, to say he struggled at Auburn as quarterback is an understatement, but I actually saw him throw a backwards pass 15 yards against LSU in 2015. I didn't think that was possible, okay? But what a coach has got to do is own it. No matter what. You can say, well, yeah, these guys are getting paid. They're going to get criticized. But I still think you go, look, they pay me a lot of money and my coaches on my staff to fix this. I got to figure it out. Y'all saw what you saw today. I'll deal with the players in private. I'm not soft. I'm not PC, woke, any of that stuff. It's common sense. Nobody likes to be yelled at, cussed out in front of their teammates. I mean, I don't like.
No, but you got to be. It's like having a team. I think now you got to be tough. Yes, and this is why Kiffin is like soup du jour, right? Is that is that you have to be cool. You got to be cool. It's like having a teenager. You want to be a successful parent with a teenager. Don't be their friend. Yeah, you got to be the jerk dad, like the tough football coach, right?
No,
but you got to be cooler. You got to be Mike McDaniel. You got to be Saban. Saban in the sense of like your signature brand's got to be cooler than their brand, and then they're going to give you that respect and buy it.
Well, you're going to rip someone a new one. There's a way to do it. Even the Marines and the Army will tell you at Ranger School. they don't scream at those guys all the time. They save it for special occasions, because if you're yelling all the time, it just goes in one ear and out the other. But
Absolutely.
this is great conversation. We went obviously long today, but
oh my gosh, I know, but dude, Johnny's like my favorite.
I love him.
Johnny, I want to ask you sometime, would you be interested in doing a podcast with Rob and I, and we can record it even separately? But we want to do something about AI in sports and the emergence of AI in sports, and do a little research and stuff on it. I think it's gonna. I think you're the perfect guy to do this with. And some of our other guests, actually, who are numbers people and stuff, that will be really interesting. But I think when you really dig into something that is like, talk about round the corner, it's here and will change everything from athlete to coaching. I think AI in sports would be a great podcast, and something that I really would be near and dear to me. So I don't know if you're interested in doing something like that.
No, absolutely.
And Rob's great. And Rob's got really great guests at these schools, and I know you do too. Because, and I will shut up about it, but all of this is driven from the universities. Obviously, that's where research and development is done. So we're going to see this deployed in our college athletics, under the guides of healthcare, or this is safety. But it's got another side to that, and that'll be fascinating.
We can do an SECU podcast on this thing, is what we'll do.
We really should. We could do like a 2 or 3 parter.
Hey, can I do a shout out to George? George, I love you. I'm reading all your comments.
He's great.
And by the way, I'm a Florida State grad. I grew up a Bama fan, but I love all college football. But George, I love your passion. So thumbs up to you, George.
Hey, out in
loyal follower.
Yeah, and my son Max is watching out in Sequoia National Park right now, where he's working out in California. Man, the bottom of the Central Valley. But man, we got some viewers. Cannot thank you enough.
I'm going to put a link out there soon, Rob, by the way, just as an update. I'm sorry I'm not in my studio today, guys. But it was worth it. Stella needed some dad love. Just radio. So we're going to go to the hotline and just pick it up. I'm screen callers, and we'll bring them in. Like, you got need help. And today being out of the studio, and Johnny, appreciate your patience with me. Have you,
and it will drop. Get out, family, neighbor. Sport.
In a perfect world, you'd set a health goal and results would happen overnight.